we have been working on this learning path for the SC-500 certification exam for a while, the Enforced Security Governance and Regulatory Compliance. We are coming to the end of this specific path. Remember that there are 12 paths in this certification, and this is just path number 3. And we've done all that, but finally we got to this path here, this module. All these learning paths, as I said before, are um, broken into modules, and we are in this last module for this learning path, which is implement security controls in infrastructure as code. The whole idea is, so before we jump into the lab, let's set the ground, what we're going to be looking at here. Embed security controls into infrastructure as code pipelines to prevent non-compliant asset resources from reaching production. So pipelines. So this is about development. This is about coding, infrastructure as code. Um, unless you are a developer, a programmer, there may be a lot of stuff over here that you don't understand. There's a lot of stuff here that I have to research. I'm not a programmer, although I went to my first 2 years of college was in programming, but I haven't done that in such a long time. So I do not consider myself a programmer at all. But anyway, so I do have, of course, uh, basic concepts of programming, and so, but we need to integrate infrastructure as code security scanning using Microsoft Defender for DevOps. That's what we're going to look at, and the Microsoft DevOps MSDO extension. Configure Azure Policy in a policy as code workflow to enforce security compliance at deployment time. Okay, so those are the kind of things we're going to be doing. So at least two big objectives here is configure Microsoft Defender for DevOps, and that we can do easily. Um, it's important to understand at least what uh, a template looks like. So we're going to be looking at a resource and looking at the template, and whether it is an ARM template, which is and Bicep templates, and then lastly, apply Azure policy in a uh, policy as code workflow to enforce security compliance. So those are the kind of things we're going to be looking at here. So if we go into the environment, and actually, so let me walk out of here. Um, as usual, we come to portal.azure.com to come to the Azure portal. And if we go into, so again, you can search for Defender for Cloud, Microsoft Defender for Cloud here. And I already have it here because we've been doing this for quite a while. But so if we come here, the first thing you would need to do is to add the environment. So when you click on environment settings, here are all the environments that you can add. And we are working with the development. So these are, so you can connect to GitHub or Azure DevOps, GitLab, Docker Hub, and JFrog. So all of these are development environment, which are kind of repositories for codes and templates and all the artifacts that developers use. Okay, and so let's say that we are going to connect to, so we have people that work with ARM templates and stuff, and they have everything in Azure DevOps. Well, you will need to connect that environment to Azure DevOps, and you would do that over here. So once you do this and you have that connection, that now Defender for Cloud can um, look at those things, right, and give you recommendation about that. It gives you, um, so there's a lot more stuff in this environment here. But so once you do that, let's take a look at this. Um, there are more Azure automation. Let's see what else we have. Uh, Anyways, let's take a look at one of these. But so once you connect that, then you get, when you look at the recommendations, now you're gonna get recommendation based on all those environments that are added. Okay, so this is what this is about. So this environment here is, or this tenant rather, is connected to Azure, AWS, but GitHub, for example, right? So that's what I'm talking about. If we go into the DevOps security link over here, because this environment is connected to those environments there, then you would get recommendation, so DevOps security recommendations, and you would get them over here. And one of the most important thing is this agentless code scanning coverage. So we were talking about, so this is repositories with agentless code scanning enable out of total number of repositories. So this is what we are discussing over here. So in the case of uh, our company that we have been talking about, let's say that um, the Contasus DevOps team deploys 15 storage accounts in a single Bicep deployment. And we're going to take a look at what a Bicep template looks like. But so these big companies normally, when they deployed this infrastructure, whether it is VMs or app service, web apps or whatever the case may be, resources, rather than going into the Azure portal and click, 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 and to create this stuff, they create these templates, right, to deploy these things. Imagine a huge company, Microsoft, for example, that needs to deploy, 1,000 storage accounts. Of course, you're not going to do that manually. That would be impossible. So you automate all these things. You create these templates. So, but let's say that the team deploys 15 storage accounts in a single Bicep deployment, and none of them have HTTPS only transfer, which is uh, kind of paramount, or a secure transfer requirements enabled. In that case, Defender for Cloud will flag all 15 as non-compliant within minutes of deployment. Uh, but by that time, they're already in production. So in other words, if a um, a team deployed stuff in the environment that using these templates and yeah, Defender for Cloud will flag that as non-compliant, but it's too late because it's already out there, and the there is going to be a lot of time taken, to fix those remediation work, uh, which is maybe something that could have been fixed in two line in either an ARM or a Bicep template, right? So in this case, the problem isn't that the team was careless. The problem is that nobody checked the templates before the deploy. So the whole concept of this lesson is to make sure that those templates are checked before deployment. So the cheapest time to fix a security misconfiguration is before the template is committed, right? Not after the 15 resources are in production. So Defender for Cloud sees post-deployment violations, yes, but it can catch them in the pipeline before deployment begins. So, and that's what we are learning here. How to use the Microsoft Security DevOps, MSDO, uh, to scan infrastructure as code. Uh, and so the first step would be to add that environment, which is, um, that has been done over there. And then once you do, there's a lot of stuff here that um, there's a lot of documentation if you want to learn more about this. If you are a developer or you have developing experience, so this lesson will resonate with you. For those of us who are not developers or have not been using this kind of technologies for a while, then but at least we need to understand some of the basic stuff. But that's the whole point with this. Now let's say that let's take a look at some of these templates, right? Let's go back into in this tenant. I have not connected, so DevOps at all. So if you come to here for the first time, to get started, the first thing you need to connect to the DevOps environment. So you need to add a connector, and then you need to configure the pipeline. So if you click on Add Connector, again, you need to choose the environment when you need to do that, and then you need to follow the instructions and all that stuff. But anyway, so we're not gonna get there because we would have seen that. So what I want to show here is that, so let's say that we have this VM and we are going to be deploying 1,000 VM. So yeah, of course I can come over here and click on create a resource, and in this case, let's say that I'm going to create a VM, and I need to do this, one at a time and just go on and on. I mean, look at all the stuff that you need to do to create a single VM. So if you need to create a single VM, yes, of course you could do that. But if you need to create 1,000 VMs, 2,000 VMs, or whatever, 100, you're not going to do it this way. And this is where this whole development templates it's about. So let's say that I have a VM and I want to modify this template. I want to change the stuff to make this generic so that I could use and deploy that. So I can come here to the bottom, so select the VM, and it could be anything. It could be any other resource. It could be a web app. It could be a whole resource group, whatever the case may be. But I can come here and I could say export this template. Okay. And so here we have the ARM template. So this is what an ARM template looks like. Okay. So yes, there's a lot of stuff. That's what I said. So that you need um, some this normally, people who work with this, they have some programming skills, right? So you could download this template and make the changes, save it, and then work with these templates. And if you have the environment, so basically you would have an environment. I mean, yes, you can have a simple template and put it into and save it on the computer, but what I'm talking about here is this company have these repositories, whether it's GitHub or Azure DevOps, and they have all these environments, and we're talking about scanning these environments before the templates um, are pushed to go live. That's the whole idea. So you need to um, basically scan these environments before creating those resources. So here's an ARM template. There's not much that for the exam. I mean, just understanding maybe what it looks like. They'll talk about variables and parameters. For example, in the parameters, virtual machines name. So obviously, you may want to change that because you don't want this is the name of that computer. So this parameters, you want to change this so that when you create this new VM, um, eh, you can make it so that the names are generated randomly, or maybe it will ask you for the computer name, whatever the case may be, right? And then if we look at the bicep for this, notice that it's going to be completely different. Um, so we see a lot less. Actually, it's not that smaller either, but so here is the bicep template. And again, it's a little bit different. So there's some, parameters, and there's some resources and identity, properties, and all that kind of stuff. So for the exam, it's important to at least have an idea what a bicep. You may get a snippet of a bicep template, right? For example, we are talking about here about identity, right? And then we're talking about system assigned. So that means that this VM has system assigned identity, which is a very important security concept. And there may be other things there, but those are the kind of things that you need to understand. And then you have Terraform. So these are the three um, the ARM templates are very common. But Bicep, I honestly, I couldn't tell you exactly, which one to use and why. As I said, unless you are you could look it up if you want to on your favorite um, AI application if you want to learn more about this. But for the context of this exam, you don't need to know how to program, how to need to do this. Just the fact that it is important that these environments are connected to the Defender for Cloud and that you scan these things before they deploy. So that's the whole point. That's what we are here, and that's what we are discussing here. Okay. Another objective in this lesson is to enforce policy compliance in infrastructure as code deployments. We have already seen Azure Policy. Again, you could look for policy here, but I already have it here. So, and again, so if this is the first time that you are watching this video, I would encourage you to look at some previous videos. There is a whole lesson just about Azure Policy. But so we're not going to go over that. But here we are in Azure Policy. And let's say that uh, we want to, I don't know, audit Windows VMs for security. Okay. So we click on this. So we want to assign this policy. And as usual, we choose the subscription or the management group. You can apply this at the tenant root, and then that would apply to all the subscriptions. You can do that as well. So we choose that. We have also talked about exclusions. I'm not going to go over that. The key point over here, so we choose all the stuff over here. And when we go to parameters, okay, one of the options here is a customized baseline security JSON payload for customizing security rules, for example. Although this is not necessarily about the templates and stuff like that, but this is kind of like, yes, you also want to make sure that these JSON files are, properly secure as well. Just wanted to kind of show this. But if you click on this, then here you are taken to browse to the file. So if you have that JSON file, you can choose that. So that's another way. That's a something else when it comes to um, now. Again, we are mainly talking about templates in ARM and Bicep, but I wanted to bring this to light since we are talking about infrastructure as code. And so to conclude this module, one thing that I want to emphasize is that since this is a cybersecurity class, so actually this is what we were doing. When you author, write the policy definition JSON or Bicep equivalent, etc. But what I wanted to show here, because this, to me sounds like a testable thing. Secure Bicep authoring patterns. So if let's say that you are shown a snippet, if there's anything about Bicep, it could be something like this. So it says when admins write Bicep templates, 3 patterns improve security posture before a scanning even runs. These patterns reduce the number of findings, blah blah, etc. And so first, use the at secure and then open and close parentheses decorator on parameters that hold secrets or credentials. So if there's anything about Bicep, um, that may be a line over there that may be on the test, like something to the line like how do you secure parameters on a Bicep template. Second, reference key vault secrets using the existing keyword and get secret. So again, this is another thing that may. And then third, assign manage identities to resources instead of service principal. Okay, we talked a lot about. So those are 3 very important security related concepts that um, it's important to keep in mind when we take this. All right. All right. So we have finished this module, but more importantly, we have we have finished. So this concludes this whole course, this learning path, the enforced security governance and regulatory compliance. So in this learning path, so we went through the enforced governance with Azure Policy and resource logs. So there is a video for that. Configure security controls and remediations in Defender for Cloud. Evaluate regulatory compliance in Defender for Cloud. Manage and right-size RBAC role assignments for least privilege. Protect backup data with Azure Backup security features, and then implement. So these are the 6, 7 modules in this learning path. Now, when we go into the so where are we going next? So here is the whole the all the learning paths, right? And this is what we just concluded. Okay. The next learning path is implement security for Azure storage for the cloud and AI security engineer. Okay. Really relevant topic in today's AI era. So this learning path, let's see. So it has the first module is describe Azure storage services, and so this is going to be the next module we are going to um, discuss to go through. The second module in this path is the implement security and manage access for Azure storage, and then Oh, cool. Oh, wait a minute. So describe Azure Storage. Okay, so one, this describe Azure Storage. Two, implement security. Three, configure network security for Azure Storage. Four, so there are four modules in this learning path, and each of this module is a hands-on lab demonstration, just similar to what we just did. So thanks for watching. And again, if you are serious about this certification, um, by if you want to go through the reading, that's fine. But I guarantee that with some, practicing, by watching my videos step by step, you'll be equipped to pass this certification exam, depending on what kind of student you are. There are different, some students that they love the videos and the pictures. There are other people that prefer to read. And if you're one of those, again, in my case, I do both. So actually, um, I read the content, I do the hands-on lab myself, and then I watch some videos if I need some reinforcement. But that combination of learning material, I think, is perfect. There's nothing like hands-on. So if you do not have an Azure environment, I highly encourage that you create a free trial. Yes, you need to put your, I believe you need to put, yeah, you need to put your credit card, but you won't be billed for, you're going to have 30 days, and some resources are free forever. But just make sure that if you create stuff that you get like a $2,200 credit free for stuff, make sure you don't go over that, and you'll be fine. But nothing like hands-on. All right, this is the final. Finally, um, hope that you enjoyed this, that you learned something. See you next.